This is an SWX special sports presentation. Vintage motocross racing from Rattlers Run Farms in Fairfield, Washington.
It's vintage motocross racing action across the hills and dales of the Palouse here on SWX. Hi everybody, I'm Trip Rogers along with my broadcast partner Eddie Wood. We'll be joined by Bruce Stimming in just a few minutes, but what a great day for vintage motocross racing. And Eddie, I don't know about you, every time I drive to Pullman, I think about taking a dirt bike across these hills at full throttle, and that's what they get to do.
Yeah, and that's not very often, and they get to do it today, and it is really neat when you walk through the pits of this area.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing all the vintage motocross bikes from all the years, from Makos to Husqvarnas to the Elsinores of yesteryear, and it is like a museum as you're going through the pits.
Really
but at the
is.
same time, they're tuning them up, and they're really getting them ready to race. And as you're watching practice today so far, guys are really ripping out there. They're really breaking the track in, getting some really good traction. It starts out pretty slick. They've been able to break it in and get some really dirt churned up. This should be a fun day of racing out here.
Well, as the track becomes more defined, we need a definition of exactly who's governing this race today.
Right.
And with the governing body of the American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association, it's Bruce Stimming down in the pits.
I stumbled into this guy over waiting in the food line, and he was gracious enough to come over and have a word with us. Randy Skyver, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So it's always cool. You're a former AMA national number holder.
Yes.
You are a Castle Rock Grand National winner.
Yes.
And you're here. You're going to tell us a little bit about AHRMA and what is AHRMA?
Well, AHRMA is an association that was formed to preserve old motorcycles. They have several different classifications. What we have here today is what they call vintage racing, which is 1974 and earlier motorcycles. And the main purpose of AHRMA is to make sure that these bikes stick around and are competitive. One of our big things in this part of the country is we have wonderful facilities like this, where the people allow us to come out and put on a race like this, and it makes it fun for the riders. And the class structure makes it fun for the riders. They always know what to expect, what classes they'll be in. And by doing so, it keeps these bikes around and keeps them competitive.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce is actually going to be riding in today's race, and we'll have some footage from his race coming up with his commentary in just a little bit, Eddie. In just a little bit as well, we're going to be getting to race action here in Fairfield, Washington at the Rattlers Run Farms. Don't go anywhere. We're back after these words. Vintage motocross race coverage of the AHRMA Nationals from Rattlers Run Farms is brought to you by Northwest Steel Fab, your one-stop shop for steel, aluminum, and stainless steel fabrication, preparation, and coating. Providing quality products to customers worldwide since 1994. Looks like our Sportsman 500 experts next up. As the 30-second board goes up, you've got some really good riders in this class, along with our premier lightweights, intermediates, 500 expert, 500 intermediates.
And look at that good start right out of the gate. Joe Cobb, a name that we know real well from being on the flat track racing, Grand National champion.
Tony Fox right next to him.
Yeah, so a good start for those two guys. Some experts right out of the gate, jump to the front. It'll be not easy to get around Joe Cobb on this track because, as you heard, the track is slick right now. They're still trying to break it in and get more dirt turned up. And if it's a flat track style racing, boy, that's Joe's forte.
Sure is. Might as well put a Class C tire on the back of that, Mako. That is Michael Washington's Joe Cobb, two-time AMA world champion in the Grand Nationals.
Yeah, you can see them coming down the hill. So you can see the bike sliding out from behind him. Yeah,
looks like we've got a rider down at the top of the hill.
And you can see that kind of a crash. There's nothing but just a complete slide out, lack of traction, coming in a little hot, and
coming in hot.
One of those kind of later in the day, though, as the track gets better, that may be something that you'd be able to come in that hard into the corner and still be able to get through it, but not quite yet.
We'll see some berms start to form at the end of the day, but not during this first moto.
Yeah, it takes a little while. I mean, and that's So the track will be changing, not so much as we see the motocross tracks when we're doing out at Airway, where it gets rougher and worse. This one's going to get better and better for a while as it gets more traction. And when a class like this, when you got a lot of 500s and a lot of expert type riders, they're really going to be ripping it up.
Good battle for second place there, Tony Fox, and it looks like the 84 of Brian Ellingson out of Spokane battling it out for second place. And here's where power meets the ground.
And this is one thing where they're going to have a lot of different discrepancies in power of some of these different bikes, and it can be a huge advantage, especially with some of these uphill climbs that they've got as Joe Kopp heads up the hill, leading this thing after one lap.
Riding the Czechoslovak, the CEC, Brian Ellingson, with Tony Fox in second place. It's Joe Kopp on the Mako out in front. You're watching Vintage Motocross. Do not adjust your sets. You don't have to change the channel back to 1969.
Yeah, it's not a black and white race. It's in HD, so we've got the old school bikes with today's technology.
Well, this is a 1965 Cotton Cobra. It's a British two-stroke, built in England. They were imported into the United States into Athena, Oregon, was the importer. Same importer that brought Hodakas in, which a lot of people grew up with, but these are a little more obscure. Not a lot of them around. It's what they call a Star Maker. Villiers Star Maker engine was the highest performance engine they put into the Cotton chassis. This one has what they refer to as the beaver tail pipe. It's a flat, wide, twin stinger pipe, and very, very, very few of them ever had this pipe. You just don't see them. I don't know. There's not many at all. There weren't many of the bikes, but this pipe was even rarer than the bike itself. But it's a right-hand shift. Shifts one up, three down, which is opposite of most of the bikes here on the other side, and they're one down and the rest up. So it's a little awkward to learn how to shift and brake on the other side. Seeing the bikes and hearing the bikes and smelling the bikes, it's a whole different. Bikes of this era, they sound different. They smell, the fuel smells different. It's just different. It's just kind of like preserving history is really what it is.
Our leader now coming through the S-turns right in front of our flagging station and our score box. That's the number 3 of Joe Kopp.
He's getting a little bit of pressure though. A slip up by Kopp or two there, and you have Tony Fox right behind him.
Brian Ellingson riding the number 84 right behind him. Then you've got, it looks like the 8S, or 8A, I'm sorry.
Seahorn.
Of Seahorn on the Webb Power Sports Yamaha for recluse clutches. Now we might mention that Jeff Seahorn has actually brought his rally car out to this facility, and who knows, he may even have brought it today. And if that's the case, at the end of the day, that's the fun part when you get to watch that rally car go around this course.
Yeah, that would be that'd be fun as well. That's the thing about it. Like we were saying, Tripp, we were talking about riding through the Palouse.
When you drive down to Pullman,
you just love to be able to ride and race. And it looks like Howell, I think, that pulled off. That Chris Howell there was in 4th place. Yeah. 4th or 5th, and he's having bike issues as well.
Right, the TM, the 79M of Chris Howell. National number 91, having some problems with his bike out there as Joe Kopp comes past the safety vehicle. I saw the 47 come into view real quickly there, Dean Newton on that Greaves. And Rob Poole out of Tiburon, California on the BSA twin going up the hill. That sounded
You can hear
really
that twin, well, that's a unique sound as well.
There's strategy, there's all sorts of different ways of getting around the track, and it's what makes it interesting. And young people, when they do this off a modern bike, first of all, are surprised at how fast we go. Right. And second, are surprised at how much fun it is. They're not worried about somebody landing on their head. They're not worrying about breaking their neck going off a 40-foot jump. It's just completely different. And the camaraderie, the people in AHRMA are just the greatest people.
The bikes are not made for going over incredible jumps. They didn't have that kind of track when these bikes were new, especially this one. This is a 1954 BSA Gold Star made in England. BSA factory went out of business sometime in the 70s. But anyway, it's a whole different style. It's a whole different attitude of racing. And that's the attraction to people who are even younger.
Joe Kopp will take his Mako up the hill. Now starts to make his way back down the hill. You can see this is the trickiest part of this track, is coming across these Kentucky bluegrass fields, and you catch a little spot of grass that hasn't been touched by any other rider, and boom.
Yeah, it'll want to slide out from underneath you. So yeah, it's a good balancing act out there that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to every second around this thing, because it can reach out and bite you from the standpoint of it just is slick spots, and the front ends can really wash out easy coming into these corners if you're going too hard.
Joe Kopp now makes his way back into the S-turns, and there's quite a few of these S-turns as you'll see him wind his way from left to right, past the delineators on each side of the track to mark the course here at Rattlers Run. Coming around some of the lapped riders, including Chuck Bullwinkle there.
We see that number 3 get a checkered flag off very often. There it is again.
It's Joe Kopp. Across the line first. As you said, Eddie, we've said that quite a few times. We'll take it to the Fasteners Incorporated Winner's Circle with Bruce Deming.
All right, Joe, you look pretty fast out there.
Yeah, I felt really good. I mean, the Mako is working awesome right now. The track is perfect. I mean, I can't thank everybody that helped put this event on. The moisture's perfect. It's a blast.
Yeah, it seems, of the 5 years I've been doing this, it seems today is like one of the best I've seen it.
I think it is, as far as moisture in the track and everything, the layout. Yeah, it's one of the best tracks I've ever ridden.
All right, man, well, keep it up.
I started racing in 1976. I was 76 years old, excuse me. And now I'm 85, so I've been motocrossing in the vintage racing that long. So I've retired now, and I got invited to go to one of these and got hooked, so to speak. Well, I'm 85. My wife says it's time to think about quitting, and I think she's probably right. But I'm still able to be up and around, and I thank God and the doctors that I'm able to do that.
60-plus intermediate, 70-plus novice, and our 60-plus expert class is next up. We've got a very special guest joining us in the booth. Eddie, you know this guy?
Yeah, now we get to see Bruce up here for a little bit, a little behind-the-scenes race recap. That's bird's eye view of what we see in this race, huh? How was your start?
You know, I felt okay about it. I didn't get the gate pick that I wanted, but you know, it's kind of a weird thing with that right-hand turn. You can't get on the brakes. So I think right here, I'm in about 4th, yeah.
Yep.
And you know, that first uphill's pretty steep, and then these next couple corners are really fast. Those guys out front were going really fast.
We might point out you're riding number 58, is that correct?
Correct, yep.
So that's the Andy James bike, right?
It is Andy James' bike, and you know, I don't know about those guys that were in front of me, but I'm on a 250 here, and you know, I felt like I was a little under horsepowered, especially after riding the 465. It's not quite the same thing.
Right.
But you know, these bikes, the biggest thing that I noticed riding these bikes is the brakes. There are none.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they have brakes, but it's really hard to get the bikes to slow down because a modern bike has disc brakes, and like even my 465 has like the dual shoe, you know, brakes. And yeah, getting this bike to slow down was probably the biggest challenge.
Now, on some of those expert riders, boy, there's some pretty good talent out there. I mean, I think people, you're watching it, and the speed is hard to gauge and I think judge as you're watching it on TV. These guys are really laying down some fast laps and horsepower around the whole thing.
No, that section up on the top, that one straightaway, and I'm serious as a heart attack, it's 5th gear tapped.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. You could see the roost coming off the beginning of it, and especially when we were watching some of the expert guys and a guy like Joe Kopp go across the top there, he's just blitzing through that, and you know that, that's a really high-speed area.
No, it's scary fast.
Well, and that makes it for some fun racing, that's for sure. I mean, it's all day long, kind of wherever we've been able to watch the riding and racing. There's been close racing. Some of those off-camber corners, though, look like there was a little bit of trickiness through there. How were they?
They are tricky. They're not too slick. They're not as bad as a couple of them have been in years past, they're still, they still drop away. There's a little bit of a rut there, and I actually was kidding with Joe Kopp a little bit earlier. A couple years ago, I'd had a chance to follow him around here for a few laps, and I learned a lot from that. And just even today, when I was out there riding, I was thinking to myself, okay, what kind of a line would Joe take around this turn? And some of them you just got to keep it pinned and high low, high low.
Yeah. That's the 19X of Robert Poole out in front, out of Tiburon, California, riding a BSA. What were you riding out there, Mako?
I was riding I think it's a 73 250 Mako.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're about to take your white flag here as you make one last lap. Tell me real quickly about that seat, that park bench that you've got underneath you there. That is a living room couch, my friend.
Here's what I can tell you. When I saw that white flag, thank God. That's all I could think.
5 laps is plenty. I mean, it is a pretty long per lap track.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not short. You get 1 lap is quite a duration of riding.
I really didn't get winded, but it's the intensity.
Yeah.
And on the lap before the white flag, I was going, what? Come on, where is that white flag? Yeah, see this guy here that's pushing me. We're coming up. He was getting really close, and I could hear him. And so right about here is where I'm starting to play the strategy game.
Inside corners.
Yeah, it's like, okay, just gonna kind of keep it tight, park it a little bit.
Put the wide load sign across the back.
Yeah. My little buddy Will Norris over at the flat track, I've taught him that well.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, if I'm in front of you, you got to work to get by.
Rob Poole out of Tiburon, California on the 19X, making his final couple of turns here. And Bruce Deming giving us an insight as to what it's like to actually roost that place.
Oh yeah, he's coming right up on you.
What do you think of your riding? That's the last question we got for you.
Old and slow.
Old and slow?
Old and slow. But you know what? Hey, dude, I'm here.
Yes, you are.
And safe. Yeah, there you go.
And safe. Yeah.
What a fun race.
Yeah.
A lot of fun watching you too, Bruce.
Hey, man.
Thanks for joining us. Yep. We're going to take a quick break on SWX from AHRMA National Race coverage. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This special presentation of vintage motocross racing on SWX is brought to you by Northwest Steel Fab, your one-stop shop for steel, aluminum, and stainless steel fabrication, preparation, and coatings. We've been providing quality products to customers worldwide since 1994. Our Sportsman 125 expert class being led around the track by Andy James as he makes his way down the hill. Our first lap of competition with the Sportsman 125 Intermediates and 125 Expert class. Mickey Sargent on the 36M, Brian Ellingson on the 84, Ray Heights on the number 17Y out of Asotin, Washington. Ted Arnold, you might recognize the last name there. You remember Jim Arnold?
Jim Arnold, that's definitely a name.
Fox?
There you go. Yeah.
Doug Riddle, that's his brother, Ted Arnold, 42. Out of Kennewick, Washington. Doug Riddle on the number 70. Jesse Ennis, famous Micah Billy rider. Jesse's riding the 92E.
Looks like Andy's got the lead in this